Hello and welcome to Distributed Systems and Blockchain in the News. My name is Thomas Bocek and this news segment is part of the Distributed Systems lecture at the Eastern University of Applied Sciences in Rapperswil. And this news segment should help you to understand the broader context of our lecture topics. Due to multiple requests, I changed the language to English. The lecture remains in German. So this week in the news, the first article is about crypto mining. If you're not a Bitcoin miner and have dedicated hardware to mine your Bitcoin, if you mine other coins, you typically rely on GPUs, on graphic cards, and that's also the reason why those graphic cards are expensive and or are sold out. And what NVIDIA tried to do is in their firmware tried to make this crypto mining with their graphic cards less profitable. So they had some modifications in their firmware that resulted in a worse hashing power than buying other hardware or than with other hardware. However, there are now tools to bypass this hash rate limiter in the firmware. This is a report from PC Gamer. This is the LHR unlocker, and they are able to bypass this hash rate limiter so that you may mine your Ethereums, your Ethers, or other coins with full speed. So that means we still have an issue where lots of hardware, especially graphic cards, are used for crypto mining and will also be used for crypto mining in the future. We also see this in other products. For example, there was a new release from AMD, the RX 6500 XT. There were some reviews and the reviews were quite devastating because the hardware or the capabilities of this new graphic cards was quite weak. So it's a low budget graphic card. It should sell for roughly $200, but most likely it will sell for a much higher price due to the crypto miners. So if a crypto miner has the possibility to get cheaper hardware that uses less energy, then it's more profitable for them. So the crypto miners will buy those and the gamers won't be able to buy this graphics card at this cheap price. And those reports, you can read about those reports here. This is one from Tom's Hardware. It's quite devastating. It says, unfortunately, the price only qualifies as budget in today's world of radically inflated GPU prices, and even then it will likely sell for far more than its official $200. And there are more reviews, more devastating reviews. For example, that this graphics card is worse than a graphics card from 2016. So yeah, this is what's happening currently on the graphic card market. So there are crypto miners driving the price up, and you get less hardware for a lot of money. The next link is about NGINX and how one can misconfigure NGINX. We'll be using NGINX in our lecture. We'll also be using other load balancers, reverse proxy, web servers. We will use SCADI traffic AJ proxy. So besides NGINX, we'll also look into other software. But this article explains what the top 10 mistakes are. I hope we won't do any of those mistakes. This is just a nice recap. They also have always a reference to NGINX Plus. That's their version that you have to pay, and we'll be using the free version of NGINX. Maybe one thing I was not aware is about the proxy buffering, that this should be kept off. Didn't play too much with it, but for me proxy buffering means reduced latency, but this is not always the case. And also if you have enabled if you have turned off the proxy buffering, then the rate limiting on obviously the caching won't work. So this was quite surprising for me. The next article is about internet and how Tonga went offline for 38 days. So I always tell in my lecture that the hardware may fail or will fail eventually. And that's also why we should use distributed systems, because we have if we have distributed systems, we have redundancy. If one server goes offline, we can switch to the other one. And also the internet is or can be quite fragile, as in this example. This is the article. It's from Cloudflare, and they have also nice graphs here. And you see that yesterday or 2 days ago they had internet again, and the problem was that there was a volcano, and an eruption caused the sea cable to fail, and since then they had no sea cables connecting this island. There's also a nice map. That's this map here. It's the submarine sea cable map, and this is actually the sea cable that was defect. We can look at all the cables, all the sea cables in the world, and there are quite many outages, things that can go wrong. And yeah, this is just a reminder that the network may fail as well. And Cloudflare has also a nice chart. So they also monitor traffic. This is the internet traffic in Tonga, and yeah, here we see that the internet is going here again. Not only islands have issues with sea cables, but also Gambia, this African country, had an internet outage more than 8 hours, was also a cable problem, and it doesn't need to be a cable problem. So for example, in Kazakhstan there were riots, and the government decided to turn the internet off. The same happened in Burkina Faso. There the internet is still limited, and these days in the Ukraine conflict we also see now many videos, many media from people showing attacks, showing explosions, and I guess this will be also shut off eventually, unfortunately. So it doesn't need to be that there is a problem, a technical problem with the sea cable. It might be also the government who is shutting down the internet. So this is a reminder that the network can fail. So if you design your system, assume that the internet or the network breaks, and plan for alternative routes, alternative services. So redundancy here is quite important. The last article is about the DAO hack and how a reporter or investigator found who stole the funds from this DAO hack. The article is here on Forbes. It's a bit of a clickbait because the DAO hacker didn't steal 11 billion of ethers. As we know, the DAO hack, there was an issue with re-entrancy, so the money could be drained. And after that, the creators of Ethereum, they decided to blacklist those transactions, so he cannot actually access the fossil, so the hacker cannot access those funds, and that's why the network split. So there is now Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. The hacker still could access his tokens or his classic ethers on the Ethereum Classic, but not on the ethers anymore. And the article, they calculate with 3.6 million stolen ethers multiplied by the ether value, high value. So if you calculate this with Ethereum Classic, it will be somewhere with the current price of around 90 to 100 million US dollars. But for an article, of course, if you write 11 billion, that's much more attractive, or it attracts more viewers. In the crypto world, these hacks, they are not that uncommon. I always show also other hacks. What happened, the most recent one, Wormhole, it's a cross-blockchain bridge, and there roughly 330 million US dollars were stolen. This was beginning of February, and end of January there was the Qubit hack of 80 million US dollars. So in the crypto world, these hacks happens on monthly or almost on a weekly basis. So there are still security issues, and such news, if it's now only 80 million US dollars, would not attract that much. 11 billion sounds much more higher. But the interesting part is how could they figure out, or how could she figure out? It was Laura Shin who did this investigation, and she tried to analyze different clues. This Austrian CEO, he was involved in the early Bitcoin and Ethereum days. He also mentioned before the hack, hey, there are serious issues with the DAO, and outlined what could go wrong, but the DAO creators didn't listen. So then, yeah, the hack happened. And this is a hint. So there's no hard evidence. And what caught my attention is that in January there was another arrest from the US law enforcement agencies. So they could figure out who the hackers were behind the 2016 Bitfinex hack, where roughly 4.5 billion US dollars in Bitcoin were stolen. And what surprised me, they also used this kind of mixer to try to anonymize their transactions, and they also used Wasabi wallets. So I think chain analysis found a way to demix those mixers, and yeah, they were arrested in New York, and they will be now prosecuted. However, take attention with these kind of announcements. There was also this announcement from Newsweek about Dorian Nakamoto, who is Satoshi Nakamoto. He then declined, and there's no real evidence that he is actually Satoshi Nakamoto. So the evidence is stronger than in this Dario Satoshi Nakamoto case. But there are clues, so there is no proof that he is actually the one who stole the DAO hack. There are just clues that he might be the guy.